The higher education system in state governments is witnessing technology-driven reforms. As part of the digital reforms, state governments are coming out with new education policies with a major thrust on the technology adoption and creating edutech infrastructure and resources. In this panel discussion, moderated by ET Government Editor T. Radhakrishna, state education secretaries will highlight their short-term and long-term plans and future roadmaps. I would like to invite T. Radhakrishna, Editor ET Government, to moderate the panel discussion on future of innovation and technology in higher education, perspective of policy making, and adoption of best practices by state governments.
Hi, on behalf of ET Government, the Economic Times, I welcome our distinguished guests and guest audience to the panel discussion on future of innovation and technology in higher education, perspectives of state governments in policy making and adoption of best practices. I am joined by esteemed panelists, Monica S. Garg, Additional Chief Secretary, Department of Higher Education, Government of Uttar Pradesh, Suresh Chandra, Special Chief Secretary, Department of Higher Education, Government of Andhra Pradesh, Mr. Naveen Mittal, Commissioner, Commissionerate of Technical Education and College Education from Government of Telangana, Suchi Sharma, Secretary, Department of Higher Technical and Sanskrit Education from Government of Rajasthan, Professor K. Ramachandra Reddy, Chairman, Andhra Pradesh Council of Higher Education from Government of Andhra Pradesh, and finally, Mr. Amit Singhal, Head Business Transformation and Skill Initiatives from ANSYS Software. Let's start the panel discussion. Ma'am, Monica S. Garg, the question is, ma'am, the COVID has come, disturbed the academic year. The vaccine is being distributed in the state governments today, and the governments are gearing up for opening the colleges. I just would like to know from you how government of Uttar Pradesh is preparing for its education for the future roadmap. How do you see the role of technology in this roadmap?
Good afternoon, everybody. I am Monica S. Garg. I am 1989 batch officer of UP Cadre, presently working as Additional Chief Secretary in Higher Education Department. Well, I'll start with the questions that you have posed. I'll come directly to the point, and then I'll also tell you briefly about what all we have done in UP for the implementation of NEP 2020. First of all, coming to the effect of pandemic, yes, it was mind-boggling and beyond our imagination, I would say. Why? Because what has happened is that over the years, though digital and online learning is being taken up to some extent in technical education field in the state, but in higher education, it was almost negligible. I would say it was minimal. So what happened was that all of a sudden, we then called upon our teachers to gear themselves up for this. And I'm very happy to inform you that they did come up to the task and the challenge. And within the first 2 phases of the lockdown, we were able, our 15,000 teachers were teaching online, and they were able to benefit and touch more than 9 lakh students. So that's a huge number for a state which had not seen online learning, online teaching in this field so far. We started a digital library. It is called Uttar Pradesh Higher Education Digital Library, because what we felt was that students do not have access to internet all the time, and in remote areas, certainly not most of the times. So we thought of providing which they could access at their own convenience. So we came up with this concept of digital library, and you will be surprised to know that it was all voluntary. It was all made in-house. The software and the platform was prepared with the help of NIC within a record time of 3 weeks. That too, I remember in the month of May, June, when we were still in various phases of lockdown. We had a small WhatsApp group. I'm just sharing you the modalities that we adopted for this, because it is actually something which came beyond my expectations also.
Okay, okay.
Coming back to that digital library experience, the experiment that we conducted, we then got it all done up by the NIC within 3 weeks. And various queries of the teachers related to IPR, to copyright, etc., were also addressed very, very carefully in virtual meetings. And ultimately, then the portal was launched on the 5th of September, the Teachers' Day this year. And we declared the months of September and October as Vidyadan Mah, months for donating education and knowledge in line with our culture of donations and charity. And to my surprise, I'm very happy to share that today we have more than 73,000, about 74,000 e-contents on my library. And they, mind you, they are not copies from books, but they are the lectures, PDFs, PPTs of the teachers. They are in text form, they are in audio form, they are in video form. So what has happened as a result is that now a student studying in any college of state, or for that matter the country, can access the notes and lectures of the best teacher of the state online. So this is one remarkable success that has happened. And today the hits are to the tune of about 3 lakhs.
May I request Additional Chief Secretary of Andhra Pradesh comment? Sir, internet and IT infrastructure is very, very important for every state to provide education services. Andhra Pradesh being a progressive state in education, sir, how you guide up and what is the status of IT infrastructure available for the state, sir?
In AP, as you know pretty well that Andhra is very progressive in terms of IT infrastructure. Connectivity is well established by far and in the entire state. And after this lockdown and all, we also started the blended learning program. In fact, initially there was no physical classes. We were having only online classes, and lakhs of online classes we have conducted both in private sector and also in government sector in all the universities. After the lockdown was lifted and some norms were relaxed, then from 2nd November, we started classes offline also in all the higher education institutions. Now we are calling 1/3 of the students offline and 2/3 remain online. This kind of system is going on now also. So whenever the 1/3 of the students, let's say out of 3 years, one first year will come, second, third will remain online. So we'll deliver the lectures to first year students online and offline, and remaining 2 years offline. So this system is continuing very well, and teachers are also, tuned to this kind of blended learning. In fact, in the hostels also, we are putting only one student per room, not more than that. And we are following the COVID protocols. That is one part of it. Secondly, our government has taken a decision that we are going to give laptops to all the students in the higher education institutions, both in the private sector and also government colleges. This is a very big initiative. In the next 2 to 3 months, physically we'll deliver the laptops to all the students, because we have learned during this period that the problem of lack of device is prevalent among the poorer section of the students. So to bring them on par, we need to give them devices along with the connectivity. For connectivity also, we have initiated some reforms. In fact, Hemchandra Reddy will tell you in detail what all we are doing. Please tell.
Thank you very much, sir, for taking that.
Mr. Reddy, I will come back to you on the specific thing. I want to ask your Additional Chief Secretary, sir. Sir, when is that you are going to roll out this distribution of devices?
In next 3 months.
Okay. Did you identify any specific numbers, or it's going to be tendered? How can you please?
Yeah, we'll do that. Now we are on in the process of finalizing the specifications, and after that we'll tender and procure them.
I would like to ask Mr. Naveen Mittal. Sir, earlier discussed also, we really elaborately discussed on the device is very, very important tool for the state government, for students. Is there any plan that Telangana government has made so far? How do you provide these devices to your students?
Yeah, Radhakrishna ji. So first of all, I must thank you for inviting me for this webinar. We have gone through the peak of the pandemic in last 1 year, and most of the country, including the state of Telangana, the institutions have been closed. And in fact, our institutions are actually opening today. And with the 50% of the capacity of the institutions, we are opening them. But to tell you very frankly, the way we have handled the pandemic in last 1 year is going to be very different from the way it is going to be handled in the future. In the sense, this was the lockdown phase, the closing of the institution, and that cannot be the norm with which we will be continuing in the future. And I think the experience of handling this pandemic has brought most of the educational academia as well as administration both to a conclusion that the future is more blended. It's neither fully online nor fully physical as it has been in the past, but it is going to be a kind of a blend of the two. That is because there are some inherent advantages in being on the campus, and there are also some inherent advantages in the online way of teaching. For example, the peer-to-peer interaction which takes place in a classroom, or two-way communication which takes place between a teacher and a student, is presently not possible on the online platform. Though there are some things like discussion forums and things like that. But the rich interaction which takes place in a physical classroom is presently not happening online. And also, if you also look at practicals, especially practicals in engineering as well as practicals in science subjects, though there are some sites which offer virtual labs, but the experience which one gets by handling by one's own hands is not yet available on the virtual platform. So we have to have kind of a blend of the two. And I must appreciate the step which the state of Andhra Pradesh has taken in providing devices to the students. I think that's the way to go forward, wherein both the central and the state governments have to work together in order to provide devices to the students in the future. In fact, both the states of Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, because they were combined states before 2014, before they got separated, we run one of the largest fee reimbursement programs in the country. In fact, every student who is either from the SC/ST community or the backward class community or the minorities community, they get the fee reimbursement, and as well as also a monthly stipend. And even engineering, in fact, the top 10,000 students, irrespective of the community, also get that. So there's already a huge program which the state government is running. And we are working out how to mobilize funds for the providing the devices to the students. But I think the way to take it forward would be both the state and the central government to come out with some kind of a centrally sponsored scheme, the way RUSA is, wherein let's say 60% funding comes from the central government or 40% comes from the state government. And I think that will be something which will be a much more sustainable way to go forward, because I don't think many states would be able to emulate what AP is doing. It's finding resources on its own. But the way financial constraints are in most states, I think the way to go forward would be both center and state to combine hands and then work out some kind of a program to provide devices to every student.
Ma'am, welcome to the panel discussion today. Ma'am, precisely, I have 3 questions to you, ma'am, today. The reforms are taking across the nation, especially in higher education, thanks to the COVID-19 pandemic. To give impetus to the reforms in higher education to facilitate hybrid learning, how government of Rajasthan leading digital reforms in the higher education, technical and Sanskrit education? If you can elaborate on that.
My namaskar to the panelists and to the audience, whosoever is participating in this very apt workshop on future of innovation and technology in higher education, perspectives of state government in policy making and adoption of best practices. Education system needs overhauling. Yeah, education system needs reforms. We all know it very well. And when I took the charge of this department of higher and technical education, I think it was more than a year back, and I viewed at education very differently, because I thought that this is an opportunity where I can make some dent in the problems, dent in the system, which is getting redundant or which is getting stagnated, and we will have to view the education system from a very different viewpoint and make the education system more useful for life, more related to life. Then I started working on this, because now your topic of the workshop is also adoption of best practices. So the first most thing required at the policy maker level is how to view at the thing. When you are very clear in your vision, what do you want to do with the work you have been assigned with, then you can do something different and you can really contribute to that system. So education system, I had always felt that the way it has developed through the time, and it was I felt it that the whole education system had been focusing too much on the degree, and it is producing, rather means it is an irony, the education system had been producing a plethora of unemployed youth. So our education system, instead of making the society happy or more healthy, our education system, which had been transferred from generation to generation down the line, somehow it has taken shape that it has to provide only the employment. We have a very exam system, and then people will have to pass it. Now, the other very sad aspect of this type of education system is this type of system rejects almost 90% or 80% of the people in terms of failing them or making them average, because it is judging. The exam system is judging you in categories. Only 10% or 15%, or even if I go beyond that, it can be 20% who can be said to be, yes, they are above average, or our education system had been like that. And 80% of your stuff is rejected lot by the system of employment market. Employment market is not accepting them. They are not being accepted by life. So there is some, I felt that there is some basic defect in the education system. Then I started making some policies, thinking over it, holding the workshops, discussing with the vice chancellors and the education experts I came across in my department. Then one thing I think which is very, very important I did was, first of all, making the syllabus of the education content, the course content which we are giving to the students, redundancies to be removed from them and making them updated. In technical education also we did it for polytechnics and for engineering college. And thanks to AICT, it has already done a lot of research on reforming the syllabus and education and the course contents and making it more modern and more related to the market demand and more related to the industrial demand. So we adopted that with certain amendments as per the requirements of our state. And first most achievement of my tenure was that I could modernize, I could update all the syllabus and insisting on that it has to be updated every time. So there should be flexibility in the course content, and there should be flexibility in the syllabus we are teaching in the universities or in the colleges, whether it is technical college or general colleges. One thing is that. Then the other thing what I felt was when I say that education is absolutely disconnected with life, I think we all agree with me that of course the education we are imparting to our students is absolutely disconnected with life. No role of there is we read the books we read in the education system is not of any use in our life, in day-to-day life. So what to do with that? And this type of education system is producing a child, a youth who is alienated from the society. And this alienation is generating lots of frustration, the mental problems. So what if he tops in the college? So what if he gets, he is a topper in IIT? But still, we should study those also. We should have a survey of the students who have topped or who have passed with flying colors in IITs and prestigious institutes. Are they really satisfied? Are they really happy? So there is some gap between life and the education we are imparting to our students. Then I thought over it and I discussed this. I held a workshop with many NGOs and very good NGOs who are working with the community and who are really doing good work in community, and formulated a subject which I gave the name Anandam. And this Anandam subject has been compulsorily introduced in all the semesters across all the streams, whether it is technical education, whether it is general education. It has been. And what is Anandam? It's a very, very simple thing, very, very simple subject. It doesn't need any textbook. It doesn't need any special teacher. The students will be doing community service. They will be selecting some projects in groups related to community problems. They will try to solve the community problem. They will try to solve, because problems are not solved always, but trying to solve will give him the scope for his imagination, his or her imagination, scope for creativity, and that is going to give him happiness.
Okay.
That is going to develop a leader out of that. So this one thing. And the other thing I did is e-learning.
Okay.
Which COVID gave us the opportunity, and I could turn many teachers who were not tech savvy. They are now recording their lectures and uploading on some or the other platform. They are interacting with the students on e-learning. So these things are happening. So this is the way I looked at the education system and could be successful.
I would like to go to Mr. Professor K. Hemchandra Reddy. Can you elaborate your laptop distribution plan?
It was like this until the pandemic severely hampered the classroom teaching learning process in the state of Andhra Pradesh. We never thought otherwise. We thought, the conventional offline teaching learning, we thought of improving the systems, we thought of improving the quality. Now, this pandemic gave us a wonderful opportunity. Within no time, we have seen students and teachers adapting to online teaching learning process. Like our special CS was mentioning, close to 6 lakh lectures were delivered in the entire higher education space. Let me inform you, it is 1 million size higher education in Andhra Pradesh. So across the sections, across the disciplines, across the faculties, we could very effectively conduct the online classes. And slowly students also got adapted to it. There, it gave us the confidence that we shall be adapting to blended learning, even post-pandemic as well. So there, Honorable Chief Minister of the state of Andhra Pradesh directed us to explore all the possibilities of technology interventions in teaching, learning, and improving the quality. We thought about a few things, and one is establishing remote learning centers. And we have 15,000 villages in the state of Andhra Pradesh. And it is our desire, in fact, the proposal is at a POC stage. Now, all 15,000 villages shall have a remote digital learning facility. And this remote digital learning facility shall be connected to LMS of the state. And from here on, we should be in a position to push any kind of a content that the student or the learner in that particular village wants to go through. It can be for the formal higher education student, or it can be for any student, any individual who wants to acquire a skill, who want to acquire soft skill or hard skill, whatever. That can be taught through video lectures. And then came the question of the availability of the device. So our experience, though we have delivered 6 lakh online lectures, hardly 35 to 40% of the students are making best use of these online lectures. Remaining, they were complaining of 2 issues. One is the bandwidth, and another one is the availability of a device. And some of the students going through the smartphones, they were not really happy about the quality of the videos or lectures being presented. So at that point of time, we proposed to Honorable Chief Minister, why can't we provide 1 tablet to every student? But then he was not very convinced about the tablet. He wanted to give a laptop. It took some time, but as our special CS said, we are confident in another 2-3 months we'll be rolling out this project, and government at its level will float the tenders. We have a reverse tendering procedure, and we wanted to minimize the cost of this laptop to the rock bottom. The government already is engaged in talking to the OEMs and then inviting them for discussions. Series of discussions are happening, and in the process we arrived at 2 kinds of configuration. One which can facilitate the formal learning and then browsing through the internet. Second one which can also help the student in programming and then simulations, etc., particularly for applications like engineering students. So in both the cases, government is quite ready. We wanted to embrace the technology, and we have at the state of Andhra Pradesh, we have very strongly, we believe that blended learning is the only mode by which we can enhance the quality of higher education. And going forward, we are going to create the internet connectivity. And in fact, the other day, Honorable Chief Minister said all the villages will be connected through FiberNet, and the village, the remote learning centers that I was proposing, it will be established at every village center. And fortunately for the state of Andhra Pradesh, we have a village Gram Sachivalayam, where the volunteers are already deputed and employed. So they can cater to the needs of the people, and they can get the feedback from the public, and they will decide what exactly is the learning content the village wants, and that will be pushed into the remote learning center. So these are some of the initiatives which we very firmly believe will provide a digital transformation, not only in higher education, but almost in every part of higher education as such. Now, we wanted to extend this facility to school education, and we also want to promote ODL, and where student formally enrolling in university is on one hand, and the student, the individual who's very much interested in acquiring a degree can register for his programs through ODL, through this remote village learning centers. So Andhra Pradesh state, as is going very ambitiously, but I'm sure the way we are working out, we should be materializing everything. And during this pandemic time, one another thing we successfully implemented in all universities, end-to-end automation of the universities, and the entire communication is through e-office. So we tried to save the man hours in the universities, and therefore the technology is strictly, adapted to, and we are already reaping the benefits at the university level. So we wanted to percolate it to maybe in a couple of years from now, Andhra Pradesh will be the first state in the country to implement the technology in full scale, augmenting and enhancing the quality of education.
I'll quickly go to Mr. Amit Singhal. As part of the digital reforms in higher education, many states are adopting innovative methods and distributing the laptops, devices, as rightly mentioned by Monica ma'am, Mr. Professor Reddy, and Additional Chief Secretary, and Mr. Naveen Mettal. What are your views on the digital reforms in the new education, Mr. Amit?
Good afternoon, everybody, and a warm welcome to all the panelists. I would want to thank ET, government, and Mr. Radhakrishna for giving this an opportunity. So I've been listening to the esteemed panelists, and I'm very impressed with the methods they have taken to counter this sudden shock which India and other countries went through. And it is a very good initiative to take care of the devices which will access the data. Monica talked about creating that data, digital library, and Naveen sir is trying to do both. So it's a very good initiative. We at ANSYS are also aligned with this. We feel that the learning will be digitalized, and it will be a blend, but mostly it will be digitalized, because this might not be the last pandemic. And we are talking about people slightly being scared getting out of their homes even after they are vaccinated, or they have a solution for this pandemic. Now, we already started preparing for this a few years back, where we have one platform which is called as ALH, ANSYS Learning Hub, which is a physics-based platform. So students can take courses, students and both professors can take courses, self-paced courses, which are physics-based. Now, last year, when this pandemic struck us, so we started preparing ANSYS innovation courses. And these are courses which are actually customized. We can customize it as per the state government requirement, as per the stream. These are not only physics-based, but also application-based. For example, if a state or university wants to run a specific course on electric vehicles only, so we have designed a course on electric vehicle, we have designed a course on electromagnetics, we have designed a course on maybe a UAV, or how to fly a drone, how to make a drone. So this is more customized platform which we have already prepared. We have launched it 2 months back, and we are ready to support the digital transformation journey for all the states in India. And I would also want to compliment Government of India for recalibrating themselves earlier with the Make in India initiatives. Now they have Atmanirbhar Bharat program, which actually aligns us to reduce our imports and increase our exports. And I think this will help in building more job opportunities in India, and this will give opportunities to the states to build more skilled manpower available to be consumed by these missions. So definitely digital transformation is the way to go forward, as per our organization as well.
Thank you, Mr. Amit. Ma'am, Monica ma'am, as part of your reforms to strengthen higher education in Uttar Pradesh, is your government coming out with any specific policy, digital reforms policy for higher education?
I'll just briefly tell you about what other initiatives we have taken.
Please,
So
ma'am.
this was one, and the other is that now, as Mr. Reddy was talking about, the shortage of tablets with the students, we have tried to address this in phases, and we have launched 2-3 schemes for it. One is that we are giving preloaded tablets to the libraries of colleges. So that means that the learning material is already loaded in the tablet, and it is being provided in the libraries, from where it can be issued like any other books. So the students can take it home and read at their will. So that is one thing that has been done. The other thing is that we are establishing e-learning parks in our colleges, wherein we'll be providing them Wi-Fi facility and access to our digital library, as well as, and I just wanted to tell you one thing more, that the digital library is bilingual. It is in Hindi as well as English, the local language as well as English. And the third is that we have also come up with the scheme of e-Suvidha Park, which is on a PPP mode, which can be established in the colleges and universities in a public-private partnership mode. So these are three initiatives that we have taken to address the digital divide, because digital divide is an issue, and more so in UP and in the remote areas of UP. We have already announced our policy for promoting the use of technology in the higher education sector, in which, as I said, there are many reforms. One is creation of the resource of the database in local language. The other is that bridging the digital divide and providing access to students, for which I told you there are 3 schemes that we have already launched. The first scheme, as I said, was probably I said it too fast, so probably you missed it. The one was about the preloaded tabs. And we have already provided the budget and released the budget for providing these in the government colleges of aspirational districts. So government colleges of aspirational districts, their libraries will now have preloaded tabs, which can be issued to the students like books. And they can take it home for a few days. The computers provide Wi-Fi and internet connection. And the third is e-Suvidha Kendra on PPP mode. So these are 3 initiatives that government has taken. The first one has already been rolled out in this financial year only. The other 2 will be rolled out in the next financial year.
Professor Reddy, sir, I have 2 questions to your Special Chief Secretary. Sir, how do you ensure that affiliated colleges of your state government universities follow the same pattern of blended learning and going forward?
For the same pattern we follow for the constituent colleges of the universities and the affiliated colleges in the private sector. With same GO, government order is applicable to them, that is offline, online learning system. And since the universities have control over them, they are monitoring their online classes and also offline classes simultaneously.
Okay. And again, sir, you are in a hurry to go. I think I have a couple of questions. What are the challenges that you have faced and how the technology addressed those challenges? If you can elaborate on that.
No, that's what, no, see, basically, as you said, 2 main problems came. One, connectivity, 2, devices. So these 2 issues we identified. 3, even teachers also, they are not very much technologically savvy people. So they also had to, undergo some change, and they learned how to give lectures online. And so, teachers adopted online lecturing very fast. Now, when we are giving lecturing online, so we have to suppose record all those lectures while teaching in the classroom. So we are establishing the studios also in our universities. Some of the universities, we have sanctioned studios, 3-4 studios in a university campus, so that, in that studio, the teachers can be called and they can deliver the lectures, and which can be live streamed to all the students. That is one initiative we are going to have it.
Are you coming out with any policy for higher education using emerging technologies or digital transformation initiatives in that?
Yes, in fact, so to say, we are thinking of establishing one university of emerging technologies, a new university, and the work is going on for that. So all the emerging technologies in digital era, whether it's cloud, IoT, artificial intelligence, all those things we want to have in that university. I think it is going to take shape, and twin objectives. One, we will train students in these emerging technologies. Two, we'll use those technologies in governance.
Thank you, sir. Sir, for any uninterrupted service, education, electricity is very important, internet is very important, device is very important. How Telangana is planning for these uninterrupted education service? If you can elaborate on that.
So I think Telangana has been among the forefront of the states in the country to really develop the internet infrastructure in the state. In fact, if you really look at the internet penetration in our state, in the remotest of the villages also have a very good connectivity. Of course, but the problem is that whatever good the connectivity is, there's always a reliability issue. I mean, we are seeing some examples of that reliability problems in our webinar also today. So that issue remains. But I think at the government level, we are talking to the service providers, the major service providers, to ensure that the bandwidth improves, and the government is giving a lot of importance to that. Now, coming to the institutions, we already have kind of upgraded our internet infrastructure, looking at the COVID pandemic problems which we faced. In most of our educational institutions, we have upgraded not just the overall speed of the bandwidth which is available, but also the computer labs also in our institutions, and also IT infrastructure for the teachers, so that they can, from their side, they can address the needs of the students in the best possible way. And I think this is a continuous issue. Of course, the way we look at infrastructure in other sectors, internet infrastructure also needs to keep upgrading with times. Few years back, even 10 or 12 Mbps speed was also considered to be very good. Then we came to the days of 100 Mbps, and now we are talking about 1 Gbps also. And I think with the time, our needs keep growing. So I cannot say that we have really completed the task looking into the future, but I think the present need is being taken care adequately. And as the technology improves, as we get more and more quality bandwidth available, we'll keep upgrading the times.
Thank you, Mr. Naveen. Ma'am, how did you utilize the crisis into opportunities?
COVID situation, I always, whenever I address on any platform, COVID made the situation VUCAS. It is volatile, uncertain, complex, and it's so difficult to take any decision in COVID situation. But India has shown its mettle. Indians have shown their spirit to fight it out, and they could come out of it. No doubt, COVID had very strong lockdowns. We witnessed all sorts of lockdowns and this contained zones and so many things. And the schools and colleges were shut absolutely almost a year. And now from 8th February, we are opening our colleges and schools from 6th to 8th also. But yes, during the COVID, we did work from home. And during the work from home, the teachers were not adapted to such type of things. The faculty was not adapted. And then I was insistent on that when we are getting salary, then we should, there is no class in front of you, you're not teaching and still getting salary, that you should have some output also out of the salary, against the salary. We started, I issued an order for work from home for the teachers also, and they had to record lectures. Though we didn't have, see, the government has its own limitations, and to cater to such a vast number of students and to the remote areas, it's really very difficult. And then the other problem with the remote areas is problem of network and connectivity, electricity, and so many problems are there. But still, we managed to record the lectures, upload on YouTube or some other platform, and then letting the students, whenever they get the time, to listen to the lectures in groups or whether it is on smartphones or laptops or desktops, whatever, how the way they could afford. I know that many of the students were also deprived of that, but we tried to give the lectures through WhatsApp groups, and some or the other way we try to manage that the syllabus is covered through these recorded lectures, and students don't have to suffer. And we didn't cut short the syllabus also, and I think students could manage. Exams were held online wherever it was possible, and and for some it was assessed on the basis of the last year's performance. So these are the real drawbacks, and but everyone was helpless in COVID situation. We could not do it. Now what I feel what we need is, yes, now this hybrid model is going to be retained, and it has to be retained, because still we have, and I would like to tell you, it is not only COVID situation. I had thought about the e-lectures, e-learning before COVID also, because we already had dearth of staff.
Okay.
Dearth of staff, and dearth of staff meet out the dearth of staff. So I had already planned for the e-lectures, and I had already started, but COVID situation has given the boost to that e-lecture system. So, but now what I feel is, what we need is, we should have online exam, a robust online exam system also. And the faculty issue will remain still, because there is a lot of difficulties in recruiting the new faculty. There are financial difficulties also, procedural difficulties also. It takes time. Till then, the students should not suffer till it gets the college gets the faculty. So we will have to have a system of e-classrooms and e-learning also, and with that system of e-exams also. So we will have to work over that, and we are in discussion with many forums also. Microsoft had come to us, and there are many who are coming to us, and I am still exploring where we can, how can we introduce a robust exam system, robust enrollment system of the students, and many things. We will have to go for e-learning system also.
Yeah, Mr. Amit, Professor Reddy mentioned very interesting thing. They are using simulators for giving some kind of real-time experience to higher education students. But I think in simulation, ANSYS software is known for simulation technology and innovation. Can you elaborate how do you see the role, your role in the importance of simulation technology?
So simulation is actually, we do it virtually, and we have been there for more than 50 years now, and we have been the leader in the industry. Now, we have been doing things at a pace, making physical prototypes, and then following a product development cycle. This pandemic has taught us that we might not have the same amount of time going forward, and we need to do things very, very fast. The innovation has to be faster, change has to be faster. So if we follow the old method, then we will not be able to beat the time which we have. It is very important that simulation comes in, because it allows you to do things virtually. You don't invest time or physical resources. You create a digital image of whatever you are doing physically, and put the boundary conditions, apply same amount of parameters virtually, and then test the product. And the results are very, very close to the actual physical results. So this is the way going forward, we feel. And we also can see a surge in the demand of simulation tools since the pandemic has hit us. And more companies are adopting, because for them, making physical prototypes is becoming more and more difficult because of low availability of manpower. People are not able to come for work. They are running at a risk. Now, also, I would like to congratulate the state of Andhra, that they have already thought about establishing emerging technology university. It's a very noble thought. It's a very good thought, and this will actually help to make our students ready for the future. Till date, I've interacted with many institutes and students. The unfortunate part is they have been taught the things which are already there, and there is no real upgradation of their knowledge. Now, when they come out of the college, the companies have to spend a year or so to retrain them as per their requirement. Here, industry academia interaction also comes in, which I think respective states have to keep in mind. So my request and suggestion to them will be to bring in industry while establishing a new institute or university, and make them as a partner who will be a guiding force while designing their curriculum, while training their institutes what is required, so that 1 or 2 years of training which they do after completing their graduation or post graduation can be saved, and they are industry ready when they step out of the colleges.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Amit. How Uttar Pradesh government is dealing with the National Education Policy 2020, its implementation plans, can you share with us?
So it is, other than the digital aspects, what we have done is that our task force, state level task force was created for all the education departments. In UP, we have various education departments from preschool, primary, secondary, higher education, technical education, vocational education. So across all, one task force was created, and then we created a steering committee also in the month of October itself. And we have been holding virtual meetings of the steering committee. The steering committee comprises of academicians from across the state of various universities. And we have held more than about 3 dozen meetings of the committee so far. We hold virtual meetings. We used to hold it every alternate day in the first 3 months. And now we have been holding it twice a week or once a week as requirement. Apart from that, we have also made certain groups. For example, one is the group for curriculum restructuring. The other is the group for digitalization. Then there is another group for skill development. And we have 17 working groups of the steering committee, which are working, they are all working on the various reforms that have been envisaged in the NEP 2020. So first of all, as we talked about the online education and technology, use of technology, other than that, we have also worked very extensively on the curriculum, on the redesigning and restructuring of the curricula of higher education sector. Because what has happened is that now that the NEP provides for multiple exits and multiple entries, so there is a need for us to revisit the syllabi in a sense that when a student leaves, say he leaves after 1 year of the education, after he takes a certificate course and leaves, he should have some skill which can make him employable or self-employable. And similarly, so we are looking at, for example, if he's learning, say, zoology in the first year, I'll give you a very basic example, then we try to put in the aquaculture, the pisciculture in that, so that he learns something about Machli Palan, and when he goes out, he can find some he can find some employment opportunity for himself. Other than that, we have also, this is one thing that we have done. Second thing that we have done is that we have tried to integrate skill into every subject. Rather than having only skill as a special subject, we will have skill as a special subject as well. But in every subject, we have integrated the skill part, the practical part also. So we are working extensively. We have a state level committee. Then we have stream-wise supervisory committees, one for arts, science, commerce, management, languages. And then they have subject groups who are working on these various facets and aspects of curriculum redesigning. So these are the things that we are doing. And till date, we have redesigned our undergraduate courses to a large extent. More than 31 major subjects have been redesigned. And we are now into the B.Ed and PG programs. We are working on that. We have also put them on the public domain for general feedback. In addition to that, we are also focusing on the basic concepts of the basis of NEP, which talks of producing a well-rounded individual. So with that in mind, apart from skill development, we are now introducing a few compulsory courses. Like one course is on ethics, human values, and sustainable development. Another course is on health, hygiene, and nutrition. This will carry credits and it will be compulsory. And then still another course is on communications, because students should have those communication skills, which we normally do not provide them in our routine course of imparting knowledge and education. And then there are other courses also. One is a course on the basic knowledge of computers, or the basic digital awareness as to where all these resources are available. What is MOOCs? Where are the open platforms available? Students should have some exposure to this. So these are the things that we are working on the curricula front. And on the similarly, then we are working on the skill front also. We are thinking we are devising ways of making skill also an integral subject. So the NEP talks of the core subjects, the core electives, the other things, and we are also refashioning our syllabi and our subjects and assigning credits. In addition to that, the NEP talks of credit transfer. So when they talk of credit transfer, now that becomes a tricky situation, because our institutions are not NAC accredited equally. In fact, I would say very few institutions in the country are NAC A+ accredited. So when we talk of academic bank of credits and we talk of credit transfer, then how to enforce this? It will be a big challenge. But we have started the process. As Andhra and Telangana were also saying, we have also started creating an academic database of all the students and of all the institutions. So once that database is ready, our software, our platform is ready, and we are now getting the data fed into it. Once that database is ready, we will allow that transition and that flexibility of multiple exit and multiple entry to the students.
Okay, your final words are both of you.
Our final word, particularly, in terms of blended learning, Andhra Pradesh is completely ready, and we would like to reap maximum benefits of integrating technology in the
Sir, Special Chief Secretary, sir, your final words on the virtual university. On the virtual university.
Secretary says, I am with him. The policy is same.
Okay. Thank you both of you for joining today's panel discussion. And thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you all the participants.
Thank you, sir.
During COVID, thick of COVID, ISRO Tele-Education Initiative, All India Radio, and Doordarshan have come to rescue of many state governments in broadcasting the education initiatives. How do you see the role of ISRO and Doordarshan as part of your reforms in higher education going forward?
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting question, Radhakrishna ji. No, our experience has been that Doordarshan has been very effective medium for reaching out to the school students. In school, there are these classes from 1st to 10th, and they have limited number of subjects.
Okay.
At the primary school level, they have 3 or 4 subjects, and at the secondary school level, they have 5 or 6 subjects. So at that level, it is working very well, because Doordarshan is able to dedicate, let's say, a channel for each class, or even cable TV also. You can dedicate for, let's say, first class one channel, second class one channel, and 10th class one channel. So like that, there are limited number of channel requirements. But when we come to higher education, we find that the TV medium becomes very limited in approach. The reason for that is that there are multitude of programs, multitude of courses, and then there are multiple years, UG level, PG level. So the overall requirement becomes so huge that TV as a medium is not able to cope up with that. And that's why going through the internet becomes a much better option. And globally we find, and also in our country, we find the MOOCs platform becoming more and more important with every passing year. And at the global level, we have this Coursera and edX platform, and in our country we have this UGC MHRD supported SWARE platform, which then provides customized or those niche courses which a student requires for his or her requirement. Now, coming to the satellite or the TV part, in higher education, we can utilize them for some common kind of courses. For example, ACS ma'am from UP was talking about communication and some basic computer skills or other employability skills, which are common, let's say, across various programs. For that, I would say satellite and TV becomes a very effective medium. But if we are talking about the coursework, then I think it becomes a very, very limited resource.
In Rajasthan government, are you thinking that the devices are to be provided to the students? One, two, hybrid model as a whole structure. Are you planning to introduce a system for your universities and affiliated colleges? Can you please elaborate on that, ma'am?
You are very right, and as I mentioned in my address, that there is a problem regarding connectivity and network, and also the problem of hardware. The students don't have means we are dealing with very, very poor stuff, poor students who are economically weak sections. Government is at least dealing with such type of students. So and they are not having smartphone or laptop or tablet. And this time we were thinking, and we are in a we are exploring how to give this type of assistance to the students. At least we can, at least to some categories of students, like those who are deprived sections of the society and who are economically weak. We are thinking of giving them laptops or tablets or smartphone, so that they can really get benefits of the e-learning system we are introducing in education. So yes, there is a plan, and we are exploring how to give them, and because it is a large chunk, so it will have a very great financial liability on the state also. So how to make a model so that it can, a feasible model, so that it is not a great burden on the government, and it is not and win-win situation for all. So we are thinking of that, and we are also thinking of I have discussed things with these network companies also, so that they can give us some cheap data and some type of scheme we can make for our students, who can get this much data, that yes, they can be avail the benefits of the e-learning system. So we are in process of that. We are thinking, and let's see, maybe this budget or in future, in 6-7 months, in coming months, we will have to do it, and it will be done for school also, I think so, because we really need it. And hybrid model is going to continue. Now you just can't go back to square one, that again only classroom teaching, physical classroom teaching will be there. So we will have to have a good combine of the physical classes as well as the e-classes. Because in technical education, at least virtual classes and all, virtual labs and all, these really help. And they gave and this type of education system, this type of hybrid model gives more exposure to the student, and they are more accessible to the world-class education institutes after that.
Ma'am, Rajasthan is known for startup friendly and also industry friendly. How do you see the role of private participation at current situation in higher education? Do you have some kind of a thought process going in?
Yes. Private, the problem, in fact, to make a good PPP model is a very, very difficult task, because with this length of service in government, I have seen many PPP projects failing, and I think everyone here sitting here must be agreeing to it. But if some feasible model, PPP model will survive only when it is win-win for both the parties. Generally, what happens in the government, we make so much stringent rules and so many regulations are there, the private player is not interested in that. Recently, there is a VGF scheme of the government of India, viability gap funding. So they are giving, when we do some good partnership with a private player, then they will be giving viability gap funding. In education, they are giving viability gap funding up to 40%. Or 40% or 60%. Exactly, I think it is 40%. And 60% will be from the private player and the government partnership. I have asked my engineering colleges and polytechnic colleges and other colleges also to explore such areas where it is a win-win situation for private. Otherwise, private player is not going to come. If after taking the viability gap and all, and after that it is we are not able to sustain that, then there is no use of making such things. Like in hostels there can be where there is number of students is high and footfall is more. We can think of bringing in the private player, and we can use this viability gap funding. Similarly, in building some labs, and some like in Badmer, we are now Badmer is will be having many ancillary industries related to the refinery. Refinery is coming up in a big way. There also we can think of many. We can even think of it is only maybe I think this idea is looks to be wild today, but we can think of dedicating whole college to a company, some refinery or some other ancillary, and they can manage that, and we will be giving the whole college to them. College built by the government, yeah, or the land given by the government. Some models can be worked out like that. So there is a scope of private players to come in, and I think, and in this new education policy also, and recently in the budget also, I think there is a lot of emphasis on private players to be in party with the government players and government. Maybe I think, but it needs a lot of exploration, and good models will have to be made. We will have to be see anything just can't simply thinking of about the government is will not do. We will have to think equally about the private player also, so that there is a win-win situation, and the situation which makes both the parties happy, then only they can survive. So we are thinking of such models, and if there are some companies ready, and if they have the ideas, their ideas are welcome.
Going forward, if I may ask you, what are your 3 priorities for the next academic year?
3 priorities. First of all, quality of education, and quality of teachers, and quality of syllabus. Infrastructure and other things come later.
Thank Mr. Amit, I would like to ask you, what is ANSYS software doing support to digital transformation from offline to online education, as many state governments are considering that blended learning is the need of the hour, and of course going forward their roadmap also hybrid learning. Can you elaborate on your ANSYS software's initiatives?
Yeah, as I said initially, we have built 2 platforms, and we are actually open to customizing those platforms. We are already in discussion with few state governments, and they want our platform to be linked with their government website. So any student can go and click on that link and join our courses. So these courses are designed by professionals at ANSYS with the help of industry people as well. And there is a proper certification program. So there are a few free courses, which are generic courses on physics and applications. But if a student wants to go in detail, they can go for paid courses. There is a slight cost for certification as well, which discussing with the state government, we can subsidize or how to go about it. But at ANSYS, we are very clear that we want to help government and we want to join hands to in their journey to skilling India and making Indians more employable. Simulation is a relatively new field for India. We get a lot of CAD and CAM jobs in India from other countries, but simulation is growing very fast in double digits in India, and we see growth which is required.
I sincerely thank you for joining today's panel discussion.
Thank you, panelists, for sharing your plans. Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to visit the exhibit hall where various partner booths are set up. You can download useful assets, videos, and presentations for future reference. Stay tuned and keep tweeting.